This e-content is developed on the topic reflective journaling. After going through this e-content, what I expect of the learner is to acquire knowledge about the process of reflection. I wish the learner will acquire knowledge about the process of reflective writing. The learner will comprehend the process of reflective journaling, and when you practice for a longer time, we expect that you will develop the skill of reflective journal writing. Before going to the process of reflection, let me give an introduction which reveals what is the scope of this process of reflection. People usually say that there are different ways or modes of learning. The first one is what we call as imitation. Imitation is often considered to be the easiest way of learning things. That is what we have been practicing all these years. We used to learn the alphabets by imitating what our teachers wrote on the blackboard. We learned cooking by imitating what our mothers did in the kitchen. And so we say that imitation is a very good and the most easiest way of learning things. Next comes experience. We used to say that we learn certain things through our experience or from the experience, and we say that life is a book of experience. So we say that experience is another way of learning things. But the problem is that experience is considered to be the bitterest way of learning things. So we need another mode of learning which is not that easy but not that tough also. And there comes the scope of the process of reflection. Psychologists or educationists usually say that reflection can be considered as the noblest way of learning things. When one way, imitation is the easiest way of learning things, experience is the bitterest way of learning things, but reflection on the other hand, we can consider it as the noblest way of learning things. So there comes the scope of the process of reflection. So now let us think what we mean by the process of reflection. Reflection is a mental process, or we can say reflection is a process of thinking. Thinking on what? Thinking on what we have done, what we have learned, what we have experienced. So we can define reflection as a mental process of thinking on what we have done, what we have learned, or what we have experienced. Okay, that's good that you have experienced or you have learned to think or reflect on something. How can we record or write upon this reflection? There comes the scope of this reflective writing. Reflective writing is considered to be a skill that should be possessed by every teacher in the field of education, every person who is working in the field of education. If you reflect on something and if you record it, means you are very curious about your own development. Means reflective writing will help you to continuously develop in your profession. So let us see what is reflective writing or how we can record these thoughts of reflection. There are so many ways of writing or recording our reflection. For example, a very simple way is that what we usually do our diary writing, etc. But we have a little more systematic way for recording this reflection, and that is what we call as reflective journaling. And how can we write down a reflective journal? There are so many models that had been found out exclusively for reflective journal writing. Now let us see what are the different stages involved in Gibbs' model of reflection, or we often say that it is Gibbs' cycle of reflection. First stage comes the description, where you write about the event, what happened. If it is, for example, if it's about the micro teaching class that you are writing, you describe what has happened in that micro teaching class there. For what content you have taken the class, for what skill you have been practicing in the class, for what group of students you have been taking the class, all these things we describe in the description heading. Next comes the feelings. With what feeling we have come to the class? What was our feeling while we were taking the class? All these things we record under the heading feelings, so that we will be able to be justice in writing about our reflection. The third part is the evaluation, where we actually make the value judgments about our class. we say whether our class was good, whether that question was good, whether that content was bad, whether the content selected could have been modified. All these things we will be discussing and writing it down under the heading of evaluation. Then comes the in the evaluation set, when we wrote down the value judgments, why it happened, that analysis is being done in the fourth stage, what we gave the head title as analysis itself. There we write down why that part was not good, why that part became bad, why it was not done properly. All these analyses are being done and written under the heading of the analysis. Then comes the conclusion part, where we write down a whole concluding remark about that event on which we are writing or preparing the reflective journal. And last but not the least, why we are doing all these reflection, to plan a better one next time. And there comes the heading action plan, where we write on, if I get the same experience or if I get the same opportunity one more time, how much improvement will I make in that content? And that comes the action plan. These 6 stages together we contribute, or that comes in the Gibbs cycle of reflection, and that is the way or systematic way in which we can practice writing around reflective journaling. So in this video content, through this video content, we have learned or discussed or acquired knowledge about the process of reflection, how we can plan for reflective writing. Exclusively, we have discussed about the reflective journal writing, where we have got familiarized with Gibbs cycle of reflection also. So I hope after watching this e-content, you all will acquire or try to be good reflective teachers in the future and practice reflective journal writing in a systematic way. Thank you.